Hi, if you're just now tuning in, you're jumping into a series I've been doing on the latest release of IronSpeed Designer version 5. In this video series I've covered so far the IronSpeed Designer interface and some of the nuances of using IronSpeed Designer. At this point in the series I've been going through each of the menus available within the application and discussing briefly the features that are available from within each menu. Right now we were going to talk about the build menu, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over the content here. It's kind of straightforward. I'm just going to touch on a few things and I'm going to leave the rest up to self-exploration. But let's go ahead and jump in first with a discussion of the differences between a build and a rebuild all and why that might matter. As you can see here, the build command builds only those aspects of your application that require building, such as web pages, presentation layer code, data access code, SQL queries, and stored procedures. Generally, only those portions of your application affected by changes you've made since your last build. The build all and run command forces the regeneration of all the application's web pages and associated code files. And I think the important thing to distinguish here is that the rebuild all completely syncs up every part of your application. If there's going to be errors, you'll see them in a rebuild all, and if there's going to be some troubleshooting effort towards resolving errors, a rebuild all might be the right thing to do as well. And the reason I wanted to discuss these two things is a lot of times, well, excuse me, not a lot of times. From time to time your application may get out of sync, and you might get some strange behavior, you might actually get runtime errors, and you can't really put your finger on what might be going on. In those times it might be best just to go ahead and stop, close your web browsers, close everything except IronSpeed Designer, and do a full rebuild all and see if that doesn't resolve your problems. In the event that that doesn't resolve your problems, it's important to move on with other tools such as the troubleshooting wizard, or maybe to post questions into the forum to see if you can get some more assistance there. So having had that discussion over build, rebuild all, and run, let's go ahead and jump back into the application and talk about the other options. When we run the application, all we're doing is building the application and running the changes that we've made. Run current page, this can be useful if you've just been working within one page and you want to see how it will work within the browser. These are some options you have for building, and I would recommend looking these up in the help to see which one works best for you. Again, performance tuning. The performance tuning is probably overlooked by a lot of people, and they may not even be aware they have this option, and this talks about view state information. And when we're talking about view state, we're talking about information that the application may store for a specific session. Things like data entered by the user, maybe user credentials such as their sign-in information, things like that. That's what's considered view state, and view state is typically restricted unless you've written some special code that reads it back out of a cookie. View state is typically restricted to the current session running within a web browser. As soon as that user closes the web browser or navigates away from the page, the view state information should be purged, unless, again, like I said, you either store that information in a cookie or retrieve it from some other store. So when we're talking about view state, you can incur a ton of overhead depending on how you choose to cache that information. And IronSpeed here makes an attempt to give you a brief explanation of what each setting here will do and how it will impact your application. If you have more questions, there's further discussion available on each of these at the MSDN website from Microsoft, and I think the IronSpeed help file will go into these with a little bit more detail as well, but it does pay to be aware that they're there. The final thing is the troubleshooting wizard. What this is going to do is this is going to be kind of your last-ditch effort at resolving problems within the application on your own. The troubleshooting wizard will help you to get a feel for your application, where the error might be, and it'll go through some basic gyrations of helping you to get things back up and running. In the event that the troubleshooting wizard fails, it's a good idea to either get involved on the forums or to open a support case with IronSpeed. Tracing and event logging simply just makes changes into your web.config file to turn on various types of logging within your application. I would recommend experimenting with each of these before you actually need them so that you're familiar with what they do, the output, etc. it'll just put you ahead of the game when you do need to use it. The re-register ASP.NET with IIS, this is something you can actually Google. You can search on Google and learn more about it. This is a common thing that may need to be done from time to time if something happens to change the version of the framework that you're using with as the default framework running on IIS. Maybe you've installed version 3.0 and you really want to use 2.0 or something to that effect. Somehow your application has gotten out of sync with what's running on Internet Information Server. This is a good way to go to restore that. And again, Google for that or reading the help file should get you going. And that covers my discussion on the build menu. And again, it's a pretty straightforward discussion. If you have more questions, feel free to ask on the forums or dig into the help file a little bit. There's a lot of information in the knowledge base as well. So come back in for the next video where we talk about application deployment and various different scenarios and configurations that we run on.